Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome back to another Wednesday. Me and Drew are back with another episode of the Vols ATB podcast. Drew, the last 2 weeks, doing the Twitter space, making it work. Kind of been in shambles. Good to see your face again. I can't lie. A lot to unpack here. We probably did not predict this. A lot to be excited about. Some
No,
things
we did
to
not.
be down about. But Drew, first off, man, how you been?
Yeah, it's been a hot minute since I've seen you. It's weird. I think it's been, almost 3 or 4 weeks since we did a last live show. It feels something like that.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, no, regardless, I'm doing well. Can't complain. A fantastic time to be a Tennessee Vol fan. I mean, with the exception of baseball, of course, but we're not going to talk about that today. We're only going to talk about the positives, talk about this incredible March Madness run that we're watching right now from Rick Barnes and the boys. And, I can't complain, dude. And not to mention spring practice is finally back for football as well. So we're less than 4 weeks away from spring game as well. So it's a good time to be a Tennessee fan for sure.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, March 22nd today, but in the last week, we kind of got the best week in sports. Obviously, March Madness kicking off. Women's and men's, the Vols doing good. The Lady Vols doing exceptionally well as well. I guess first we're going to dive in with the men's. Drew, go in there against Louisiana. We take care of business there. I think that's where our Twitter space was when we were joined by your buddy. And, talking about that game, the worrisome Tennessee squeezes by there, down low presence, fantastic. And then we got to the game. We kind of had circled on there. Let's go ahead and talk about it. Going into the Duke game, we knew we'd have to go out there and fight, be physical, be our kind of team. We did just that. We went out there, kind of shocked the world, shocked some of our fan base, and, went out there and played exceptionally well. Olivier Camwa, 27 points in 22 minutes. All in all, a dominant performance from the Vols who, like Rick Barnes said, they thought we were dead, but we're still kicking. The Vols still dancing with a chance to play for the Elite Eight, going to play in the Sweet 16 tomorrow against Florida Atlantic. The Duke game, what were your takeaways there?
Yeah, I think a lot of our thoughts were after that Louisiana Lafayette game that we were going to get an early exit round, on Saturday against Duke, and that, we were just going to get manhandled. But man, I think all of us were completely surprised on just how dominant and how physical Tennessee played defensively. I mean, they just set the tone early, especially as dumb as that Euros foul was on Flapowski or whatever the hell his name is. That set the tone the entire game, and you could tell immediately that kid was rattled about the physicality that Tennessee's defense had. And, I mean, we've seen from time to time after again that this team could beat anyone in the country. I mean, they proved that this year with marquee wins over Alabama, Texas, and Kansas. So, I mean, they've proven that they can play with some of the best teams in America, but it's just being able to do it on a consistent manner, which has been the issue for us all season. But, man, it's hard for me to complain about that game, honestly. I mean, they limited the turnovers. We were 10 for 13 from the free throw line. Forced 15 turnovers against Duke. Lowest amount of points Duke has ever scored in an NCAA tournament game in the history of their program.
Yeah.
And, I mean, Olivier Camwa played like a man that was possessed. I mean, my God. I mean, 27 points in 22 minutes, 10 for 13 from the field, 3 for 4 from the three-point line. Unbelievable performance. Just dominant win over a really hot Duke team that had 11-game winning streak going into this game. I think you and I both know that, we can't expect Camwa to drop another 25 tomorrow. But it's just exciting, though, to see that we don't have to rely so heavily on Santee and that there's going to be guys out there that are going to step up. And it honestly feels like that we're playing our best basketball in the right time of the year. And quite honestly, as a Tennessee Vols basketball fan, I can't remember the last time where that was the case. So, dude, exciting win, historical win, probably one of the best wins under Rick Barnes' era for sure.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And another topic is if he gets this win, just to mention Rick Barnes, 10 years as a Tennessee Vols head basketball coach, everything he's done, we have a lot to complain about. But at the same time, he might cement, his legacy as one of the best to do it under the Vols. So on top of that, though, going back to your Duke statement, when you talked about the turnovers, I think it was 10 minutes, into the first half, and the announcer was like, Duke already at, 7 turnovers. He's turning the ball all over. And I'm like, this team's, has found its way. Duke's not going to do that the whole game. This is going to be like a nail biter. They really kind of had them rattled, and it definitely went back to those first 2 possessions. Like you said, Euros, that first foul kind of dumb. But then even with the whole Vescovi pivot thing and, guys flopping everywhere, I just knew we kind of had them rattled. Not only you mentioned the fact that, yes, our team is really experienced. Duke a very young roster, first year head coach, just to, found their rhythm going into the ACC tournament. I thought, going in there, like everything was just going well. The down low, Euros being physical, being able to give you what he could. Olivier obviously playing lights out. And what made really got to buy in and believe is when Tyreek Key came off that pivot, came off that screen, and didn't even, hesitate like we've seen him all year. He just pulled it from three, nailed it. To see him kind of get in his mojo and, have some kind of role and step there. The whole team was, firing on all cylinders. We're taking Zakai, back to New York. This team is probably more motivated than they've been all year long. And obviously we have, a challenge in the past playing in New York, but I think this team is going against a very, very experienced FAU team, a very good FAU team. You saw that against Fairleigh Dickinson. They're not 32-3 for no reason. A lot to look forward to in that matchup, but just to see how dominant they were. And I know we talked about it in football, the uniform effect. The cream jerseys for the basketball is undefeated. We've seen it all year, though, man. Whenever they play good teams, they're going to go out and rise to the occasion, and they come out with a win every single time. A lot to look forward to against FAU just because of the fact that they played a really good Fairleigh Dickinson team. They kind of remind me of a little version of Missouri being able to go.
Were they good, though? I mean, let's be real. Let's be real. Fair play to Fairleigh Dickinson on this unbelievable, 16-1, upset.
They weren't even supposed to be there.
They weren't even supposed to be there. And the only reason they were there was because the winner of their conference tournament was a D3 team from a year ago, and they were ineligible for the tournament. So they were – their biggest guy was 6'6", and Purdue has a man at 7'4", and they shut him down. Like, let's just be real. Like, Purdue played awful, probably the worst game that they've played in several years. It just so happened to be against a 16 seed under Fairleigh Dickinson. They have a couple good guards. And fair play to them. Unbelievable, story. That's what makes this tournament so special. But I'm not going to be too fazed about FAU beating Fairleigh Dickinson, and also the fact that they had to beat, in my opinion, a kind of a mediocre Memphis team in the last second buzzer shot too. So,
that's true. But the only thing I know is, looking at their regular season play, they went, played Ole Miss, got destroyed in that game, but they also went down to Gainesville and beat Florida on their home court. So kind of seeing that effect, this matters what team shows up. It's March. We've seen it all in the tournament. I feel like every game has been competitive. There hasn't really been a blowout besides us kind of taking care of Louisiana. But overall in all the other brackets, like there wasn't like some crazy manhandling that we saw all week. If they go out there and play as physical as they did in the Duke game, and I know that's going to make the nation sick. Jay Billis is in shambles. All the Duke alumni are sick, like they did, cheer for Grayson Allen and so many more players, across the years under Coach K. I just think, they're obviously going to prepare for that. I wouldn't expect, FAU to try to get in foul trouble early and get the bonus before the game even starts. I just think that, Euros over the year, hopefully it's coming down to a whirlwind because he's been complaining a lot to the officials in the tournament. But we've seen all year long as the year's gone on, like they get used to Euros playing physical. And it just depends. Like they said, if Pat, was, repping that game against Duke, man, that's a whole different game. I don't think Duke just goes to the stripes 7 times. I think, we're seeing them a very close game that's, being slowed down by the officiating. It's going to matter what crew we get. Obviously playing in New York, the last time I think was Maryland this year where we came out with a victory. But even that game, remember that game? Like that game was, crazy environment.
It was awful.
So I think we kind of got lucky just because, if Fairleigh didn't make it, being in New Jersey, the Cinderella team, their, 2,200 students might have showed up. But we got lucky. We're playing the FAU Owls, a very good team, but traveling just as far as we are. And I think Vol Nation definitely has proven they can take over New York City before. So,
yeah, no, for sure. And go to a little bit more back to the Duke game real quick. I thought like the officials for the most part did a relatively decent job.
Oh, yeah.
Now, there was on several occasions where Cam Roach should have gotten his 5th foul at least
Cam
4 or
Roach.
5 times. Or Roach, or whatever his last name is. Yeah, I think it was Roach. But he should have gotten his 5th foul at least 4 or 5 times within that last 10 minutes of the second half. And somehow, one way or another, they were just giving it to other players. It was insane. I thought for the most part they did well. They allowed the game to be physical. And it wasn't like Australian rugby rules, as as FAU's coach would say. Like it was just physical, good basketball. A lot of the type of basketball you have seen in the early 90s, late 80s in the NBA. It's just physical, hard nosed. And honestly,
can I give a shout out?
Yeah, go for it.
The Durham, North Carolina native Jonas Adu. That man was playing physical. He was getting yams early. Putbacks was absolutely insane. Yeah, he came down physical with that elbow, but can you imagine? Like, obviously, it wasn't intentional when you saw the replay. But like the power of Jonas Adu, man, and like he's just now getting himself into that strength program that Rick Barnes has been, stressing for him to finally hit. And now he's getting to that player down low. Dude, he's coming into his stride. And I think that kind of, gave him a flair as well. And what we talked about, needing in March, confidence, needing those guys on fire. Look at Olivier Camwa, Vescovi's finding himself. Jonas Adu is becoming a new guy. And hey, Toby Awaka, Zakai Ziegler may be hurt, but it's still Toby Awaka's homecoming in New York City. So I just think that we found, we were so sad when ZZ got injured, but our down low play, including, Josiah Mayshak and Adu, like they're completely coming into form here late in the season. And, the bracket, let's just talk about how that's been favorable for us, man. Like the way it's played out for us, man, like Rick Barnes and the Vols have a serious chance to do some damage here. So if they can just go out there and take care of FAU, man, the possibility we're talking about.
I agree. And man, we have to give a shout out to Rick Barnes as well. That the in-game adjustments I saw, especially in that second half, were some of the best coaching performance I think he's had the entire time he's been at Tennessee.
He didn't let them breathe.
Bro, especially in that second half where, we're up by 5, they go into a zone defense. We kind of look like we're struggled, uncomfortable a little bit. And then within the next timeout, next possession, we go score 6 quick points, and Kamwa just lights them up within 10 to 15 feet from the board. I mean, just incredible.
The last 19 points.
It was just incredible in-game adjustments, which I think all of us have been begging for God knows how long. I mean, probably easily the last 4 or 5 years, because that was one of the things we complained about. Barnes was like waiting far too late. And I think he coached one of the best games of the year and one of the best games in his career, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just
the craziest thing, the craziest chilling thing to me about it is that whenever Rick Barnes was asked, the day before the Duke game about it, he told the media exactly what he was going to do. He said, go tell Duke that I'm running the zone defense. And what did he do, man? Like, he literally suffocated them. And granted, they're a young team. That Duke team, they're not going to slow down. They're definitely going to be a threat every single year and continue to be. But, man, the way they went out there and dominated the ACC tournament champions, you just made them bow down. And like you said, the officiating wasn't involved early where we made a statement, for the rest of the game. We're talking about a 15, 20-point win. Like, this, we definitely could have dominated them further. So,
easily, as you said, a 15, 20-point win if Roach literally gets the foul that he was supposed to be called on when he, punched basically Julian Phillips in the stomach, more or less.
Dude,
so
Julian Phillips with the 2 yams too. That kid,
he's been doing better. If we're going to be honest, though, we got to be completely honest here. This man is nowhere near ready for the NBA. I think he definitely deserves to be back one more season on Rocky Top.
Look,
he's improved.
Take the advice of the one guy that went up north to the other Kentucky school that's not Kentucky. And, look at that. And just trust Rick Barnes, and you're going to be a lottery pick next year. So. Oh,
yeah, for sure. But, I think overall, can't really complain about that. Also, I think another incredible stat that I saw the other day, that this was the 4th 25-win season under Rick Barnes, where prior to that, Tennessee only had 3 in its entire history. So he's already had, more 25-win seasons under, his career at Tennessee than the entire career, all the Tennessee coaches combined, including Bruce Pearl, Ray Mears, Don DeVoe, Jerry Green. It's impressive. And it goes into that argument that you and I were talking about that earlier today, like where if he gets this win over FAU tomorrow, it's hard. Even if without the Final Four appearance, just to be in the Elite Eight again, it's hard not to, argue or agree that he's probably the best coach in Tennessee basketball history.
And just how we judge this season, in SEC play and everything else, man. And now we're looking here, going Sweet 16 bound tomorrow in March. And you look at the teams we lost to, Texas A&M, Missouri, Kentucky, hell, even Vanderbilt. None of those teams are dancing anymore. Granted, Vanderbilt just lost to UAB in the NIT tournament. They're not going to be able to hang that NIT banner. But every single team we lost to in conference decided to lose early, didn't, have that extra day where we went to go play Bama in the SEC championship. This team, they had to figure it out fast. They have. And, to see that kind of turn around from everything that happened, granted to Rick Barnes, it's easy to blame him a lot, losing your star point guard, having Triple J and, Julian Phillips out and finally being healthy now, but having them out all season, to see it all come together, man. And we're going to go play FAU tomorrow in New York. And I just think we're going to take care of business. I think the path is right there. I think, granted, it would all match up if we end up playing, Michigan State again in the Elite Eight. It's hard to look forward to. You cannot look past anyone in March. We have learned that this tournament every year before. It's going to be a crazy game. I feel like that line of, 3.5, 4 points is definitely right. They have a style. It's all about style in March, and I think they have a really complicated style that might give Tennessee some problems.
So, I mean, this is easily the best draw situation Tennessee has been in as a Sweet 16 team in the history of its program, in the sense that, you got a very favorable matchup against Florida Atlantic. We actually really got lucky that we didn't play Memphis, because I think Memphis would have been a way more intense game and, stressful game on our players, especially being an in-state rival. But when you look on the other side of that region as well, I mean, we got a Kansas State team who's, they've been playing well. I mean, they're a good basketball team, but they don't really have a lot of options from the three-point line. And a Michigan State team that plays great well defensively, but they can't really score that well either. And it's just a really favorable, for a path for us to make it to the Final Four. And I don't think it's like an unrealistic thing to start, talking about of this team being a Final Four team, which if you would have told me that, 3-4 weeks ago, especially after, us losing to Florida on the road by 15, losing to Vanderbilt and buzzer beater, Missouri on a buzzer beater, all those games, Kentucky as well. And you're like, this team late March is going to go on a run. They're going to beat Duke. They're going to be in a Sweet 16 where they play the 9 seed and then only have to play potentially a 7 in the Elite 8. I would have called you a lunatic. An absolute lunatic. But
we all knew there was that wave of adversity, but no one was going to think they were going out here like after what we've seen the past 3 years and be like, oh, we're going to the Elite
exactly.
8.
And especially to like also add into that mix, so like, oh yeah, by the way, you're going to lose your star point guard to an ACL injury second, to last regular season game. It's been an unbelievable turnaround. It's incredible they've been able to find an answer, even though they really haven't even found a solidified answer at the point guard position. They've just made it work. So I think it's huge. But, I was watching a little bit of that Florida Atlantic FDU game, and they kind of remind me a lot of Missouri in the sense that they just love to chuck the 3 ball and just go the hell with it and just hope and pray that like it goes in. I was doing some calculations the other day. They have averaged the last 6 games 24 3-pointers a game.
Holy
24.
Shit. A game?
They shot 28 against FDU.
Shit.
Or sorry, no, not 28. They shot 28 against Memphis.
They made
31 against FDU. No, they both shot like 25% from the field. But this is a team where I'm like a little nervous. I'm going to be completely honest with you. It's like, yeah, theoretically, we should be able to beat FAU. It shouldn't be an issue. We should definitely be able to cover. But they're one of those teams, man, where if they start making the 3, like they're hot, and it's Tennessee's pace offensively is just not going to be able to keep up with that. We've seen them try to do that against Missouri, and it just doesn't work.
We've seen it in March too, though. Like just with Louisiana, man, we were up, 14 points with 3 minutes to go, and they started, shooting up threes, getting hot, man. Like we came out with the win in round 1 there, but that's FAU is a really, really threat team, man. Like they didn't go 32-3 for no reason. They are disgusting. They got their ball. So I definitely think.
That doesn't think that. That's not for me not to say that. Like, I still don't think we're going to win this game tomorrow, and I think we'll win it decisively because I just think we are. We have way better big men. They'll be able to force turnovers, and quite honestly, if we force them to like use their inside game, this like big man that they have, Vladislav Golden, this little punk that's been talking over there, he was like saying in the media today about how Tennessee's dirty and all this stuff and whatever.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. Bro. That's what I wanted to mention. How does your coach come out the same day today, right? And, he's like, oh, I wanted to say that my comment about Tennessee was more of a compliment. It wasn't, a threat or anything. It wasn't anything bad. I just wanted to say I really appreciate the style of, physicality they have in play. And then your center comes out with a quote about us being dirty. That's just kind of, I think, an AD making a phone call. Because isn't that Danny White's, brother?
Yeah, no, FAU's athletic director is Danny White's brother. So I'm sure there's a lot of heated discussions and takes within the White family group chat for sure. No doubt in my mind about it. But I just find it hilarious that like he's like the one thing that I've noticed with this team on the media with like the last couple of days is that they're just giving bulletin board after bulletin board material. Yeah. Whether if it's the players or the head coach. I mean, I don't know if you saw his quote today that he had when he was supposed to clarify his Australian rugby rules. Bro, this quote is awesome. It's hilarious. He's like, I know that was taken in different ways. If you said that our team is extremely physical, extremely aggressive, and extremely intense, I would tell the staff and the players that you're doing a great job because that's what I want them to say about us defensively. He is walking back already on his statements about this. I mean, it's hilarious because he knows that this team defensively is just going to suffocate the hell out of them. I mean, and that's what they do all 40 minutes with every single team they play. And then you continue to have players like Vladislav, the Russian 7'1" center, saying that this guy, that we play dirty and that, from what they've seen and that, they're not going to let that affect them. You're going to tell me, you're really going to tell me that Uroš is going to take that lightly?
Yeah.
It would not surprise me.
Bro.
It would not surprise me in one bit if Uroš does something dumb like he did in Duke and gives a guy like elbow in the face, elbow in the cheekbone. I mean, it's going to happen. I mean, it would not surprise me one bit. I'll just be honest with you. I mean, but you got to set the tone for this team.
Off topic, but kind of on topic thing. The celebration video after Duke where Uroš just bodied Olivier and carried him into the locker room, like full deadlifted him, carried him and everything. Like the things that Uroš could do to a human being, it probably scares me, but God forbid, just make the free throws. Now, I love you.
Oh, I mean, yeah, he is the only player I think I've ever seen that is a worse free throw shooter live that I've seen live is Shaq. I mean,
I'm surprised Duke did not take advantage of that, like Louisiana.
That's what I'm saying too. Like, they know he's a horrible free throw shooter.
I'm sure we see that tomorrow.
There's no doubt in my mind if we play inside that they're going to hack a Shaq Uroš. I mean, they will. I mean, they're definitely going to hack a Shaq for sure. And I mean, that would be the smart thing for them to do defensively. But I don't know, man. I got a feeling like our big guys, whether if it's Uroš or Adu, is going to just be so physical inside that there's not going to be anything that FAU can respond with. But I don't know if you also saw the other quote that Dusty May, Florida Atlantic's head coach, had to follow up the Australian rugby rules. Not the one that I just said.
Another one?
He said, because, he made that comment. He's like, well, we'll have to get ready for Tennessee if I learn how to play Australian rugby. Yeah. And then they asked him, like, well, obviously watching the highlights or the film of the Duke game, what was your thoughts on the referees and, like, the physicality of the game? And he said, I didn't see the Duke game. I have no idea. I just heard through Twitter and some comments made. So this man didn't even watch the game, didn't even watch any highlights. I mean, he still felt the nerve to even make a comment. I mean, it's just, you can't make it up. I mean, it's comical at this point.
So my man's turned on the March Madness pregame show, saw Duke alumni Jay Belis, talking his shit, saying that, it's a terrible, too physical a game. We're out there playing football, whatever the quote was. And he just went with he didn't rush it. You were sitting in that locker room. You were watching the primetime game, the 2:30. They made it primetime for a reason for that day. You were definitely watching that Tennessee Duke game, knowing the fact that you got lucky playing a 16 seed in Fairleigh Dickinson, whose coach dipped on them for Iona quicker than, just crazy. So he's been blessed. FAU has, I understand why they're cocky, but at the same time, all this heat that we had, right? I think it's kind of going our way now after FAU's attempt to, try to finish that dunk off against FDU and, missing it at the buzzer. So talk your Australian rugby, whatever, bro. You just be happy you're here, in my humble opinion.
And honestly, and I think as hilarious as I think it is that Tennessee's being portrayed as the bad boys of the tournament, being, dirty and everything, I think is honestly the best thing that could happen to this team because there's not any pressure that's being put on them. It's not like any of the ESPN analysts are like, well, Tennessee has a cakewalk to the Final Four. There would be no reason for them not to make it. There's no pressure on them now. Because everyone's portraying them as the bad guys. And if you've heard Kamwa's comments after the game, that's what they want. That's what they want to be portrayed.
Yeah, for sure.
So this is just going to be the more fuel to the fire. And honestly, I mean, I think it's the best thing that could possibly happen for Rick Barnes and this team right now is for them to be portrayed as this than as opposed as the obvious favorite to go to the Final Four within the South region. So,
the interview's crazy.
It's insane. But yeah, let's let's break down a little bit of the favorites though, with the spread and everything with FAU. I saw on FanDuel today that we're 4.5. I think you mentioned now it's going to be 3.5. I'd like to hear what your thoughts on. Do you think we're going to cover that? Do you think it's going to be closer? Do you think it's going to be a convincing Tennessee win? I want to hear your thoughts, Brando.
I mean, I would take the over, and I think Tennessee comes out like I definitely understand why it's there just from what we saw. Like it's hard to kind of compare that with FDU and seeing them, but even their first round, like you said, going into their conference play when they beat Memphis, like they're a threat for a reason. Shoot lights out. Their center, like you said, but also their guard play, who had a historic game against FDU, being like some crazy stat line he put up, being like one of the first to ever do it in March Madness in the tournament. Like I don't have it in front of me, but definitely a threat there. And, being without Zakai is going to be a matchup. Obviously, just that suffocating defense is going to have to be a problem. But I think that line, I think it's fair, but I definitely understand why, when FDU, like I can see the Vols definitely being up 12-13. And FAU just coming and draining 3 or 4 threes in 4 possessions and, cutting it close again. So I'm going to say, I think we win by like about 7 or 8, but I understand the 3 to 4 line,
I think it's going to be like a game of streaks. I think you're going to see where we'll be able to shut them down defensively, where they'll go 3 or 4 minutes without getting a basket. And then next thing you know, they're going to be on a 6-0, 7-0 run within a minute and a half time frame. Because, I mean, this is exactly what that team is. They're a team that plays that plays in streaks, and they'll get cold, they'll go cold as well offensively for sure. My only thing is that, they do have 2 guards that average about a little bit over 13 points a game under John L. Davis and Elijah Martin. And John L. Davis was the one that had 29 points, against FDU. Now, granted.
Like 5 steals too. Monster.
He had 5 steals and 12 rebounds. Pretty damn impressive performance. I will give him credit for that. However, he did shoot 25% from the 3-point line. He shot 25%. He missed 9 shots. Okay. I am a little suspect. I think he's gonna get at least 15 points. There's no doubt in my mind about that. Like he will score. 30. But I don't think he's going to go for 30, and I don't think he's going to have as many shots and opportunities as he did against FDU. Because quite honestly, FDU defensively is not a very good basketball team, and also their tallest guys shorter than Triple J. I mean, so
that's true.
So I don't think he's going to have that many opportunities. My big thing is just like, how are our guys going to respond to playing a 7-1 center with them? And Vladislav Golden, I mean, Grant, he only had 8 points and 6 rebounds against, like I said, an FDU team where their center is 6'6", which is really bad. I mean, he's about 6 inches taller than the guy, and he couldn't even get 10 points. But are we going to be able to respond where if he scores 2 or 4 quick points, dominates early, are we going to allow that to affect us mentally and then the entire game? Or is Uros and Adu going to be able to, put a response quickly and shut them down offensively? Because they do very well from offensive rebound perspective, where I believe they average about 13, 14 offensive rebounds a game. So they are a good team offensively on rebounding the ball and getting second opportunities. But that's going to be a huge thing for us is if Tennessee, can we be able to box out, can we be able to rebound and limit those offensive rebounds? Because we were able to do that against Duke for the most part. But FAU also does have a guy 7 foot, and they are a team that can rebound and get second opportunities. So I think that's going to be a really interesting aspect for us. I don't know. I mean, it could go either way. And I try to stay optimistic. I've started optimistic the first half of the show, but now it's when reality is starting to kick in. It's all right, is this going to be another Loyola Chicago situation, another Sister Jean situation where the miracle Cinderella team, even though FAU is not really a miracle Cinderella team.
We went through so much, man. We deserve this, man. We've been kicked in the dude. All the tailgates that we had, enjoying football, just praying for Rick Barnes, that it was just going to keep going. And we talked about it, obviously seeing it on black and white then, now how the season's kind of turned out. And just to be here, Drew, playing in the Sweet 16, the path we've had, to be lucky to play FAU, still a very, very good basketball team. But man, we have the chance to break the thought of regular season Rick.
Personally, I think he's already broke that.
Oh, I do too.
I think he's already broke that. And I think anyone that's
– But this solidifies it,
Oh, yeah, it 1,000% will. I mean, 1,000% will. But, we've seen time and time after again with whether if it was our football team where the stars aligned perfectly for us to have a path to the college football playoff and play in Atlanta and nothing's going to stop us.
Just don't
And
step
then,
on the tee, damn it. Like,
and then Jeremy Banks, or no, I'm not going to say that, but we blew it.
amen.
Or whether if it's,
We
the
get it.
baseball team where we had a perfect opportunity to become the greatest college baseball team of all time, and then we lost to, an unranked Notre Dame. So, like, that's what I'm saying.
True.
I'm not trying to be a negative, so I don't want to hear it, but this is a team where the type of offense they play, we have struggled all year against. And the teams, that they have beaten, Florida on the road, we struggled to them this year. And granted, I know they lost to Ole Miss, but we struggled against Ole Miss this season as well. So, I mean, based on those two common opponents, I mean, I think there's going to be a little bit to worry about. But that's not to say that Rick and the boys are not going to have these guys ready and that, we're going to be rolling. I do agree that the stars align with,
we're going to beat FAU. I said Purdue.
I mean, I think we would have beaten Purdue anyway, quite honestly, in the Sweet 16.
I would have loved to have that crossover episode again with the –
Oh, yeah, 1,000%. I mean, revenge from the Music City Bowl for sure. So, and 2019.
Kicking the dick and everything. I think definitely you didn't even answer the whole question that you brought up. What's your spread?
So, I mean, they're 4.5. It's hard for me to agree with that because we were also 11.5 against Louisiana Lafayette, and I thought that spread was the most insane thing I've ever seen. Like, I think 11, like, that was just – so I don't know how to feel about this. I think we'll win. But I think they're going to get like a little like cheeky 3-pointer at the very end and like Vols win by like 2 or something like that. I think we win this game, but I think it's just like it's going to come down to the wire. I mean,
listen, you want to know my schedule for tomorrow? Okay, so the game's what, a 9:00 tip Eastern?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's 8:00 here in Nashville Central Time. So working till 10. Obviously going to be able to watch the second half if I'm lucky, which I should be lucky because it's in New York. They're going to win all the money. They're going to milk it. So this game's definitely going on till midnight Eastern time. Let's be real. Waking up at 7, getting the car fixed, 9:00 dentist, workout, everything. I'm going to be up all wired. When 9:00 comes around or 8:00 comes around my time and, your stomach turns like it does every game in March. Like, let's be real. Like, we know we're talking about it now, being optimistic, but we all know where we're going to be, 24 hours from now. And we're going to be in the group chat going crazy. But I definitely think that, like you said, like this is might be like the most confident I've been in this team. Just being how confident they are, like the formula we saw against Duke, the way it's lined up, like it has to happen. It has to be now. And yes, we've been kicked in the dick, by terrible, communication via teammates and guys, not stepping up to the lights. But this team right here, Tennessee, we saw last year in the SEC tournament championship. This year, they took adversity in the regular season, and now they're making their run in the postseason for the first time in forever. And I just think it's there. I think we have to go out there and win. And I think the leadership is there. We're not going to go out there against, a 7-foot guy or let, FAU after they, dunked on us, but they couldn't dunk on the court and let them get away with one.
I will say, if it's not this year where we don't make another Elite 8 or Final Four, it will never happen again. It will never happen again. Just because the draw that we have.
The guys that are leaving that are not coming back. Like
the guys that are leaving. I mean, I think we'll be all right next year. I think we'll still be a top 25 team all throughout the season. But just with the depth that this team has, it's now or never at this point. It really is. And so, I mean, we'll see, dude. I'm going to be a nervous wreck tomorrow as well. I'll be at Yeehaw Brewery over there on Broadway in Knoxville. So shout out to the boys.
So,
but
three, like, the fan run guys, they have their 5 things. Let's do 3 keys. My big 3 keys to victory here. Number 1, Pat Adams cannot be on the refereeing crew. If Pat Adams is on the refereeing crew, we know the whole kind of pace that we had against Duke, the whole physicality thing we've done all year. Every single guy on our team that loves to, use their body and play physical basketball like it was, meant to be and not adapting to the new age. They're going to get calls. Euros is going to get calls. Mayshak is going to get calls. Pat Adams cannot be on that court. We need a respectable crew that, respects how Tennessee plays basketball and is going to go out there and just let us play. Let March be March on both sides, of course. Just that just can't happen. Tennessee needs to be able to play their kind of basketball. 2, obviously, stopping the 3. That has to be important. Like you said, the way they've gone out there, they shooting, 31% to 35 3-point shots a game. They're going to make some of those, obviously not a lot of those, but they're going to, when they shoot them, like they're on. This team is a very team that can catch on fire. They've gotten here. They were 32-3 for a reason. They went out there and, beat teams like Memphis and, Florida in games where like this team can get hot. We cannot let them get hot. And number 3, I think it has to be the guard play. Vescovi has to show up. He has to be that guy this game. I think obviously defending, he's going to have a lot to him, but he has to be that guy that, gets around, does his thing, uses his speed, and is all around the court. He's going to have to be everywhere. If it's, catching and shooting when, Tyreek Key's not hot, or, just being the leader of the offense. I think that's going to be important. Obviously, big shout out, Zakai is going to be there, having that extra voice, extra teammate, extra motivation. Mm-hmm. I have to mention how much that is going to play in the factor. Just having that extra voice of someone who already believes in you and has been on that court with you, that can see everything. And when you're hearing it from him as well, I think that's like another factor. Like, that's their brother, man. They're going to do it for Zakai. I think, Pat Adams cannot be refereeing, stop the 3, and Vescovi has to be that guy. We need like some kind of guard play in this game.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. My 3 things that I want to see and that I think will guarantee a Tennessee win tomorrow night is we got to force FAA to shoot inside the paint, shoot inside the 3-point line. This is a team that loves to shoot the three-pointer. They got guys that can get hot from 3, whether that's, as I told you earlier, Janelle Davis or Elijah Martin. Those are 2 names that you're going to hear them talk about all night tomorrow. They're going to talk about them all night tomorrow night. Limit the opportunities that they have from 3, force them to play our style of basketball, and force them to take tough shots within 10 feet or less. I think if you do that, I think it's going to be very difficult for them to get anything going offensively, and it's just going to, hurt their rhythm on trying to make anything happen. The next, for the love of God, we have to limit the turnovers. The turnovers that I saw in that Louisiana Lafayette game, especially in that first half, were almost nearly gave me a heart attack. I mean, it's a miracle that we actually won that game, considering I think we turned it over 12 times in the first 8 minutes. It was something absurd. We did a great job offensively last weekend against Duke on, I believe, only having 11 turnovers the entire game. I would like to see Tennessee to limit that to 10 or less. I think if we can limit that within single digits, which I think is possible with this team. Florida Atlantic's not the best team defensively, but I think if we can limit that, be smart with the basketball, don't allow FAU to go on these, fast break runs or anything like that, we create a great opportunity for us to win this game. And last, and certainly not least, rebound the basketball. We have to rebound. As I told you earlier, FAU has averaged 11.6 offensive rebounds in the last 6 games alone, including 15 rebounds against FDU on Sunday and 18 offensive rebounds against Memphis as well. This is a team that can get offensive rebounds and often score in those second opportunities as well. If we're able to box out, which I have more than enough faith in the world that guys like Triple J, Kamwa, Adu, Awaka, Urosh, whomever, especially Meshack, if we can be able to do that, box out, play smart defensively, and limit any second opportunities that FAU can get offensively, I don't see how not Tennessee wins this game. So those are my 3 things. My final score prediction, Brando, you can give me yours. I am going to say Vols 68, FAU 66.
Sheesh,
it will not be easy.
I will not be okay in the group chat if that is the case. I can definitely agree in that score range, though. I definitely understand. Like, I see why it's there. I think, Tennessee 75, FAU, like 66, 75, 66.
You guys win by 9?
Yeah. I mean,
man, you got a lot of confidence in our offense.
I just think, I think that you're very right. It's going to be, going very back and forth. But I think in the end, I think Tennessee's going to make their final run in the end. We saw, against Duke recently. I think they're going to be able to, be those guys, dominate. And if we can come away at the end, be dominant, the last 5 minutes of the game and come away like that, I think it's going to, just be a total confidence killer for FAU. I definitely going to think we've seen Tennessee's defense all year make guys, have to communicate, get angry at each other. And I think they're going to eventually break. I think it's definitely up-tempo offense. But like we've seen against, Missouri, Bama all year long, we're going to be able to probably, have some kind of answer for that. Obviously the talent differential, but still a very, very good FAU team. I could definitely see it going both ways. I think the line's very respectable. I think Tennessee's kind of fixed all their issues, and it's like, going into March, the way they've adjusted in-game, late-game situations, I think that they kind of have their idea, and it's going to take a lot to make Tennessee kind of fold here. I just think it's going to be something hard to stop Tennessee from making the Elite Eight again. So,
yeah, I mean, and I'm trying not to get too optimistic about it, because every single time I've gotten optimistic about a Tennessee basketball team, I've always wound up being pissed off at the end. So, I mean, it's hard for me not to think like this is going to be it as far as making another Elite Eight appearance. And how ironic would it be if we had to face Michigan State again in the Elite Eight? And hopefully, if that is the case, I would much rather play Michigan State than Kansas State personally.
Dude, Kansas State is nasty.
They're good. They're good. They're good. They're hot. They're hit or miss, but they're good for sure. I think Michigan State's going to be too good defensively for them to really be able to get anything going. But ideally, I would love for us to be able to play Michigan State in Elite Eight, get revenge, for Wayne Chisholm and, Brian Williams, J.P. Prince, and Scotty Hobson, and Swiper Boy, and all of them for that heartbreaking loss that we had against them that year, where we really should have won the national title, in my opinion. Hopefully we'll be able to make a Final Four appearance for the first time ever. But I think you and I would both have to agree, though, with us playing Alabama potentially in the Final Four, that I don't think there's any way that we're going to get past that.
I mean, I don't know, man. Are you talking about, like with our lives or with a win?
Oh, for love of God. I know you were going to put in a Brandon Miller joke in there somewhere. Jesus.
Oh, man.
I guess in hindsight, probably both. But, I hate to say it because I hate Alabama and everything, but they are playing unbelievable basketball right now. So that will be, be extremely
but at the same
tough.
time, without Julian Phillips and Josiah, we beat them.
Granted, it wasn't TBA. We also had Sakai.
Yeah, granted, it wasn't TBA, and we had our whistle, but, it's not like an impossible. It would be crazy to see an SEC versus SEC Final Four, but I'm not,
Yeah.
Maybe we
it's
get
certainly
lucky,
a possibility. The only team I think that has a
Trey Wallace picked, Providence to go out there and knock him out.
Yeah, I'm just going to ignore that. So,
hey, that's your boy. That's our boy.
He's our boy. It doesn't mean that was a smart pick.
Come on, man.
I don't even know. Providence lost in the first round, did they? I think they lost to Kentucky. So,
wait, who they playing? Xavier?
They're playing.
I'm so I'm just Vols.
No, they're playing. Princeton's playing. I forgot who Princeton's playing. They're in that same bracket, but I think Alabama's playing. I think they're playing Xavier. That sounds right. Yeah. No, they're playing San Diego State. That's who they're playing. Yeah, they're playing the Aztecs. They'll beat San Diego State.
I don't even know who Trey had picking, but he just had Bama getting picked by somebody.
I don't think San Diego State's beating Alabama. I'm sorry, but
I don't think so.
Yeah, love you, Trey, but I could not disagree more with that pick.
I don't want to misquote him, man. That's the worst thing to do, This is
allegedly. But all right, I think it's enough basketball talk. I think we need to go. Go ahead.
No, that's it. Yeah, that's it. Just go out there and win, man. Yeah, honestly, just go out there and win. Everything we said, everything's on the table. But, dude, fucking nervous wreck. And not even just basketball, but, the Lady Vols, too. Give a little shout out to them. They're making their way in March. Two huge, impressive victories. Beating Toledo the other day. Before that, St. Louis is dominating. The biggest come around, huge turnaround by Kelly Harbor. Got a really, really, really tough opponent in Virginia Tech this upcoming game. So, hopefully Tennessee and the Lady Vols there can, keep dancing. But just, I think we're the only team that's, made it this far in the Sweet 16 in March and had a New Year's Six Bowl champion. So everything's cool. The BaseVols, they're going to find their way. I know we're not going to, put some respect on their names. So they're still one of the dominant teams in the SEC and one of the most stacked conference. Like the SEC is fully taken over college baseball now.
And that's the thing. It's like if you think SEC and college football stacked, SEC and college baseball is a next level absurd. I think there's 8 teams in the top 25 that are SEC teams. So over half the conference is a top 25.
Missouri's 17-8 and undefeated in the conference, and they're 4th. What?
Yeah, but it is. Tennessee's the 3rd school in the last 25 years, as you mentioned, Brando, where we've had a team playing a New Year's Six Bowl and Sweet 16 appearances, both for men's and women's basketball. I think the only other teams were Ohio State 10 years ago, and I want to say Louisville, if I'm not mistaken. I think Louisville had 1 year where they did it too, where I think they had Teddy Bridgewater or something like that. So really impressive. I mean, it's just an incredible time as a Tennessee sports fan, especially on just how well one's playing.
A very underfunded sport, but one that is making the way up. Just the one note I have on it, Tennessee softball. This stat, Drew, the softball girls, Lady Vols, bro, nation-leading ERA in a .62, 17 shutouts, number one in the SEC, tied for first nationally, 1 perfect game, 1 no-hitter, 5 one-hitters, 13 extra bases allowed in 157 innings, and only 15 runs allowed through 25 games. The Lady Vols are on fire in baseball. I think they're up to number 2 and 3 in multiple rankings across in softball. Yeah, Lady Vols softball, whatever. And bro, it's just crazy. Like Danny White, like we knew that he never preferred one athletic program over the other, especially through his tenure at UCF and Buffalo. But he's really came in. Every single program right now is on fire going into their season or postseason. And dude, it's just crazy to have some kind of dominance in every other sport, seeing the state down, in conference play or just the crazy stats. So huge shout out for that. And obviously the big money maker that we're about to, talk into, the season that never stops, but always will never begin. Spring practice, year number 3 officially kicking off under Josh Heupel. Day 2 was today. The last 2 days, Tennessee getting a glimpse at their new 2023 top 10 ranked class and their top, transfer haul that they brought in, and multiple guys, including Keenan Pili, Gabe Judy Lawley, wide receiver from Oregon, Dante Thornton, Andre Curry, the offensive lineman from Texas, McCallum Castles, the tight end from UC Davis. Just overall, the haul that Tennessee has, man, Josh Heupel pretty much has a brand new team, and it's just going to be a lot for him and the guys to kind of, play with in these next, 2 weeks. Drew, the last 2 days of spring practice, there's been a lot that, has standed out. What's been, most to you? Mine so far was the big note on, Arian Carter, in-state 4-star linebacker that, signed late with Tennessee over Alabama.
Yeah.
Day 2 of practice, picking off Joe Milton. Obviously early guys getting back, but, everyone had the high hopes from him. And, the staff seems pretty excited about him. I'm fired up about Tennessee's defensive haul in this class.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was going to say literally exactly Arian Carter and that INT they had against Joe Milton today in practice. I think the one quote that really had me fired up about him, though, is that, when they were asking him about that, and how the transition going from high school to college and, the differences and everything, he was just saying, knowing the work I put in, day out, coaches always tell us that to expect to make plays. So when the opportunity comes to you, you make the play. That shit right there fires me up, because we have been missing that type of energy and that type of work ethic, especially defensively, for years. And I think this is a kid, even as a lot of talent that we do have in the linebacker room now, with Keenan Pili especially, this is a kid that you're not going to be able to keep off the field. I think one way or another, he is going to be making a huge impact. And and I'm not trying to put too much stock and hype on a freshman linebacker. But man, this type of energy and play that I have seen him done, watching his high school film, he could be the next great linebacker Tennessee's had. He could be the next AJ Johnson or something like that as well, or Gerard Mayo especially. When you have guys and when you have coaches like Nick Saban sending out their defensive coordinator to their school to recruit him, and you still get him, that shows an emphasis and shows how bad that a program like Alabama wanted him. That's huge that Tennessee's now in a state where we're able to get Alabama's essentially some of their top targets and take them off their board and then sign them. I mean, that hasn't happened in my lifetime in a very long time, and I'm sure you agree with that as well, Brando. So
I mean, we got Arian Carter, and the guy that we missed out that did go to Bama. Let's just say it made the news in the headlines. Tony Mitchell.
True, but I think we got the better one. I do
too.
So
for sure. I mean, look at the character.
Yeah. At least our guys are not getting caught driving 140 miles an hour of $7,000 worth of weed. So
you heard Nick Saban himself. He said the words, man. There's no such thing as the wrong place at the wrong time. You got to be responsible who you're around. So all in all, though, I think it's just crazy, man. The biggest thing to me was obviously, everyone's biggest guy, Nico Ilava. making his way at spring practice, rocking the number 12, not number 8. My boy's
Don't
rocking
like
12. I don't. I
Do
mean,
not like it.
it's gonna be. Surely that's not permanent. Like let's be real. Hopefully
I'm
not.
telling you right now, as a lifelong Tom Brady hater, I hate this move so much. Now,
Dude,
I love Nico, even though I haven't seen Nico play a single down yet for the orange and white. I think he's going to be the next great quarterback Tennessee's had, and I think he's going to be. I think when it's all said and done, within 3 or 4 years from now, that he's even going to be held to a higher status than Hendon Hooker. I really do.
my thing is,
but
dude,
wearing the 12, Tom Brady 12, which is clearly a dedication to him, I don't like it. Don't like it.
My biggest thing was obviously there was like a lot of really weird 24/7 articles that came out about Nico before spring practice, just kind of wondering like how everything was going to be. Guys looking at how he's going to take that step to college play in this offense, and then to see Josh Heupel after 2 days just rave about everything. Being able to go on to the next play, being able to play to play, which you have to do in this offense. You can't make one mistake and let that eat you. That guy's going to go out there and make a play. He's a playmaker, a crazy athlete, his body and size, and the way he can just flick his wrist. To be one behind Joe Milton, but at the same time learning from Joey Halsey, who's now the OC, and being under Heupel, being their kind of first real blueprint quarterback that they get to kind of build. Taven Jackson leaving the program. I think that the quote of them saying that he's going to have to be pushed early. He's going to be pushed early, and he's obviously going to be our guy, our number 2 guy. That's just a huge advance just to say he's already there. But at the same time, man, to have that time with this kind of roster, get with these receivers, and now be able to, build around that, I think it's just going to be good overall for not only the staff, but Nico. He's going to be able to have that trust and, be that leader that, when they created their own quarterbacks and built their own quarterbacks at UCF, like Dylan Gabriel at UCF was a different kind of guy. And Nico is a Miles, physically, height-wise, weight-wise, the ability to, play. I just think everything's raving there. My biggest thing, and you hate the number 12 jersey number. I love the new number 11, Dante Thornton. Coming in from Oregon, taking Hyatt's 11. Dude looks exactly identical when he's out there running to Justin Hunter, bro. It is crazy to me.
I love that comparison because I was thinking the exact same thing when I watched some of the videos yesterday on his route running, especially over there in slot. Exactly the same. Might be even a little faster than Justin Hunter, quite honestly. And it's I'm gonna have to keep myself in reality a little bit. When I'm watching a lot of these runs and I'm watching his film too, I can't help but see the potential that he has. That he could even have a very similar season as Jalen Hyatt did this season. I think the potential is there. And this wide receiver room, and call me crazy,
dude,
it might just be
stacked.
It might just be as talented, if not even better, next season. Because when you think about a lot, bro. But if you think about the options you have in the wideout, you have Brew, which no one's talking about. Granted, he's injured, but no one's really giving him the attention about how good of a wide receiver he is. A lot of hype going after Squirrel White after that dominant performance he had against Clemson. Then you have Dante Thornton, and then one guy that we always keep forgetting to talk about is Ramon Keaton as well. You got 4 loaded options over there at wide receiver, and it's going to be an absolute nightmare for defenses on trying to stop.
Let's not think about the quote whenever guys were entering the portal before the Orange Bowl, like Walker Merrill and Jimmy Holiday and Jimmy Callaway. When we were kind of questioning the wide receiver room, you say to all those guys' names, Ramel Keaton stepping up. They were
already
raving about guys like Chaz Nimrod, Caleb Webb. And now we just added Nathan Leacock in this class, who finished way up in the rankings. When people finally got to scout him, and the staff is saying that he's an SEC ready wide receiver. It's just all in all, absolutely going to be crazy. I think Josh Heupel's proven the last 2 years that whenever he gets his rotation of wide receivers, he kind of keeps that until later into the year. So I would not be surprised to obviously see the Brew, Ramel, Squirrel, and Dante Thornton thing. Those 4 guys rotating kind of there. But the flexibility that you do have, being able to put Dante in the slot or putting him outside, he's going to be dominant everywhere. And I think just be able to have those kind of threats, it's just it's insane. And it's to say wide receiver it's not even just the wide receivers or the linebackers. You look at the edge and you look at the running back room. The way that Josh Heupel has built this, when he had scholarship productions, everything all around him, convincing guys to come from SEC programs, and now in the portal, having that blueprint to put out. The way that he's been able to build around, he has so many new pieces on every single position. he's really came in and like we said it would be the biggest task, man. The way he's rebuilt this roster with what he can and can't do is absolutely insane. And the NCAA is still sniffing down our sack. Like it's awful. So
it's the same thing that I say every single time when we talk about football as well. It's just seeing the transformation that we've seen from 3 years ago when he first came in here, or I guess it was 2 years ago. Almost 3 years ago. 3 years ago. Seeing the transformation he had when we had 35 guys that walked out, we were about 15, 20 players under scholarship limit, completely depleted offensively. And to see the turnaround going from that 3-7 football team that we all witnessed during that COVID season to now Orange Bowl champs, got a top 10 recruiting class coming in, completely loaded at wide receiver, completely loaded at quarterback, have a lot of talent in the running back room, and a lot of good depth of their on the offensive line. These are things that we have not seen in a very long time, and these are things that are going to help you win football games, and we've seen that from this past season. And I know a lot of people are thinking that are not associated or talk a lot about Tennessee or watch Tennessee as much as we do. I've seen some people from the national media thinking there's going to be a drop-off next season because we lost Hendon Hooker. Quite honestly, I'll just throw that hot take already. I think Joe Milton's going to have a 8.5. I think Joe Milton's going to have a better season offensively, passing yards and touchdowns than Hendon Hooker next year. I really do. He has all the tangibles in the world. He could be a first-round draft pick. The arm is there. If he throws anywhere remotely close like he did in that Orange Bowl, there is no doubt in my mind that he could lead this team to 9, 10 wins, even 11 wins, honestly.
Dude, that's the thing. Like the amount of 60-plus yard throws that he's going to have, like he might blow out the nation by storm. Like, I don't think it's going to be close in that retrospect. If we see him connect with Squirrel or Dante Thornton in that retrospect, I think those will be the two guys you kind of see in that. It's going to be absolutely insane. The highlights we're going to have is just going to be crazy. I think Dante Thornton, the Josh Heupel quote today was, he has every single ability and every single intangible to come out here and, be a perfect wide receiver. It's just about how quick and how fast that he kind of picks up in this offense. And I think Joe Milton's going to be that guy in his ear. You're already seeing him do it with Nico, but definitely one of the guys he's really bonded with is Dante Thornton. They've been with each other every single day in the indoor facility since Dante transferred and landed in Knoxville. And I think that's just going to be a guy that he makes sure is ready to go. And just to have those threats, man, like Joe to wait out the process and have his year, it is so stacked. And I think like you said, man, it's crazy to kind of think this team is going to regress. Like the coaching staff, I don't think they're going to let that happen. I think it's just going to be able to bring the way that Glenn Ellerbe and Josh Heupel are going to be able to get this offense rolling, especially now Joey Halsey. That's the biggest thing. How does this team and offense adjust from Alex Golesh not being Josh Heupel's right-hand man to Joey Halsey finally having a bigger role? And I think it's only going to get better. I mean, first-year wide receiver coach with a Blitnikoff Award winner, Kelsey Pope, coming in his own. I think everyone's young and motivated, and we beg to kind of have this staff, man. But like you say, the turnaround.
I don't think we're going to see a difference at all. And I think we've seen a lot of good wide receivers at Tennessee that wear that number 11. And I think that number 11 is going to start being a really special thing here soon within this program, whether it was Joey Kent, Justin Hunter, now Jalen Hyatt. And I think Dante Thornton's going to be in that same category after this season as well. There's no doubt in my mind that he could be a second 15, team.
Man, it's crazy.
A second team, if not a first team all SEC wide receiver. I mean, the intangibles and the talent is there for sure. And to break down a little bit right before we end the show, because, I mean, as hard as it seems to believe, we're almost near the 1 hour mark. Brando, the news yesterday that once again Tennessee will be playing a neutral site against an ACC opponent, which, by the way, starting this year when we play Virginia in Nashville, we'll have 3 consecutive years where we start off playing an ACC opponent on a neutral site. We have Virginia here, Titan Stadium.
Oh my God, that's fucking ass.
I still call it LP Field. I still call it LP Field for some reason, but Nissan Stadium. That's it.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
There we go.
Nissan Stadium.
We play
right? NC State in Charlotte in 2024, which I think honestly could be a relatively decent matchup. It wouldn't surprise me if that winds up being a preseason top 25. And then 2025, which I don't know why we agreed to this in the first place. Tennessee, Syracuse, and Atlanta. Now, granted, I will be there 1,000%. But that Syracuse is awful. But I want to hear your thoughts on the NC State game. Personally, for me, I mean, we didn't really have a lot of options since, Oklahoma is coming in the SEC starting next season. So we didn't really, I mean, it was either that or I think it was like playing like Georgia Southern or something like that. So you didn't really have a lot of options to go in the first place. I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea to continue to play a team like NC State, but
Yeah.
I just wish that we would be able to go back on playing a home and home with some of these teams because a lot of these neutral sites, and I know they do it for recruiting purposes, it just sucks the life out of like what college football is all about.
I mean, I'm not for the whole, home and home thing. I mean, I would be for like certain teams, and granted, like I am for like, certain matchups. Like Washington, I'm so looking forward to in the future. NC State, like, capacity is like not all that, nothing crazy. But I'm just not looking forward to going and playing in Wolfpack Stadium or whatever it's even called. Just me personally.
I think it'd be all right. I don't think it'd be that bad. I mean, we've played at worse stadiums. I mean, we've had an agreement to play UConn.
Yeah, I mean, we'd show up for it 100%. I'm sure NC State would, be hype about it if all went well and everything was trending in the right direction. MJ Morris is that guy. They go out there and are confident. He's there in his third year. I think NC State, they've been a team that's picked it up really lately in recruiting, being involved with like 5-stars like Noah Rodgers and just the talent in North Carolina alone. And now adapting to NIL. There's no telling what they're going to be like next year. But I really do love the aspect of like Danny White being able to be in like his agent mode, go out there and see what's going to be best, what's going to get Tennessee the most money in that kind of situation. You're doing it on the fly too. Like it's a year in advance. When we see most of these home and homes, they're like 5-6 years in advance. I think the Washington one's like 28, 29. Mm-hmm. So like you have to plan that in advance. I'm not going to blame that on him. I think he did the best. So for Tennessee, going back to North Carolina in general is going to be huge. I feel like for us, but I don't know.
We'll be playing in Charlotte two of those next 3 years. We play NC State in 2024, and I believe in 2026 we play. I think it was either 2026 or 2027. We play West Virginia and Charlotte as well.
We literally play Charlotte in 2024 or 2025.
Yeah, I believe we played them at home as well. So, my only thing is there wasn't a lot you could do as far as teams to be able to work out on playing 2024. But
there's no way to kind of look though with Texas and Oklahoma joining.
That's the thing too. I mean, because you're only going to be limited to I believe about 3 out of conference opponents now since they will be joining. But regardless, though, I need Danny White to have it home and home with Notre Dame. I've been waiting for this for 20 years. Okay, I know they came back in 04 and 05, but I think it would be awesome. I think Vols in Notre Dame Stadium would be sick. It would be a hell of an atmosphere. That would be premier college football at its best, and I think we would beat the hell out of them too. Either that or play Notre Dame to Ireland. One or the other. So
holy shit. Well, did you see that one game that changed on the fly with Georgia Tech? Like they're playing in fucking Ireland, like out of nowhere next year in 2024.
Yeah.
Like that came out of Brent McMurphy. Like if the college football is going to that, or we're out here playing over, like granted, I know we have a lot of international fan base. Like it's crazy. We've seen all the videos, all around the country and all around the fucking globe. Tennessee Vols fans, like
we're everywhere.
But I love playing in Neyland Stadium, or I love playing in a neutral site NFL field. And I don't even like doing that. I live in Nashville, and I don't even like playing in Nissan Stadium because of flashback reasons. I've been to 2 Tennessee Vols games in Nashville and Nissan Stadium in LP Field. One was North Carolina, and the second one was Purdue. I'm sick.
I was there. I was there in 2010, and I've sworn to myself that after that day that I will never step foot in that stadium again. Even at 12 years old, I knew I did not want to go back to that. So I will not be there for Virginia. But I would love the idea of Tennessee playing in Ireland. I think that would be sick. I think it'd be so cool to have the idea of like knowing that we were playing to the other side of the world. And there's no doubt in my mind we would sell out that entire stadium too. Because quite honestly, Tennessee could be playing on the fucking moon, and we would still wind up having 40,000 people there. Like I'm convinced of it. So
don't get me wrong. I think it's already probably going to be a night game in Nash Vegas against Virginia. I think it's already a Thursday game. Like it's one of those deals again this year.
I think it's going to be like a 3:30 kickoff. If I'm going to be honest with you, that's like the vibes I'm getting. And that's the vibes I'm getting from it. You can't make that a night game. It's just like it's going to be like what, like 9:00 U.S. Eastern. They're not going to do that. Like it will be a nasty 2:30 kickoff where everyone's sweating, and it's just disgusting and nasty, and it's just. And it'll be a miserable game to watch in person, and we'll wind up winning that game like 59-10 or something.
Yeah, crazy.
But
Drew, I guess, crazy to even be talking about football already, March 22nd, 9 p.m. And, looking forward to that game's, under 6 months away. So absolutely crazy. Just a little over 5, actually. So playing Virginia September 2nd, that's going to be crazy. But just, seeing this class come in, all the guys, all the freshmen we're raving about, Arian Carter, Caleb Herring, putting on weight, all the guys getting to that SEC level play, what they were recruited for, building their bodies, and now being able to go on the field, learn everything, learn from the best. These guys, like this offensive class, like Tennessee football, man, going to be something to really be hype about. Tomorrow night, 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, Drew, Vols and the FAU Owls. Buddy, one last comment on that. I know you're reeling.
Nervous, really nervous about this game tomorrow. An incredible opportunity for Tennessee to make some history, to be able to potentially even get our first ever Final Four appearance. I'm not the type of guy that believes in stars being aligned, but, with Z being over there and having the opportunity to be able to do it in the mecca of all arenas, Madison Square Garden, it is going to be unbelievable. I hope to God we can pull it off. This team deserves it. Rick Barnes most certainly deserves it. And guys like, Kamwa and Urish, who struggled here initially and worked their way through on being, good, reliant basketball players. Those guys deserve it tremendously. So, nervous wreck for tomorrow. I got faith that we're going to get the dub, that we're going to get the job done as well. But exciting times, though. Also good luck to the Lady Vols against their matchup against, I believe they play Virginia Tech. Once that's Saturday or Sunday, they play Virginia Tech.
Really good team.
Yeah, really good team, but it's also a winnable one for them, though, too. They're red hot. And what can I say, dude? I mean, even despite Tennessee baseball struggling last weekend against Missouri, still a top 15 team. It's a hell of a time. I say it every episode, but it's a great time to be a Tennessee Vol right now.
I mean, we're about to play in one of the most magical places in history, where Ali versus Frazier happened, where John Lennon's final performance happened, WrestleMania, and, John Cena making his, famous comeback at the Royal Rumble, and the Vols beating FAU, baby. That is going to join the list. Tomorrow we are beating the Owls. Regular season Rick is no more. Josiah Jordan-James, Euros, and Vescovi are going to be the 3 leaders, 3 pillars leading this team to victory. We're going to bask in the glory and watch the games and enjoy the rest of this beautiful, beautiful tournament as the Vols keep on dancing. You can't say that about most of the rest of the ACC, and the one that does has a killer on their team. So already the advantage. Drew, a lot to look forward to. Going to be some nail-biters. The group chat's going to be crazy. I can only imagine what this, hour-long festive vibe would have been like if we were at full strength. Shout out to, Alex and Lowe. Hopefully next week when we're in the Elite Eight, this is something that we are definitely doing. Or wait, when is the Elite Eight?
You mean Final Four, late
Eight we'll
Saturday.
be in the Final Four, next week when we're doing this show. And all attendance is mandatory. So, be there. Don't, whatever. Vols ATB every Wednesday. Be sure to tune in on, live on Twitter, YouTube link, Vols Scoops, or on Spotify or Apple on your preferred platforms. Drew, my boy, it was a pleasure. And let's go get this W.
Yes, sir. Always a blast. Always a ball. Till next time, go Vols, baby.
Yeah, good night and go Vols, baby.